Hello and welcome to the 100th Monkey Experiment presented by the Dream Society. Brought to you every Monday night at 9:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who are not familiar with what the 100th Monkey is, the 100th Monkey is one way of looking at the critical mass or the collective consciousness. A definition of the critical mass is an amount or level needed for a specific result or new action to occur. So if we are each the 100th monkey and we're that change in the world that makes that change occur. So we bring different topics to the show to make us think about that and bring us new ways to be the change in the world and discuss different topics and different points of views. So we call it the 100th Monkey Experiment, sort of a viral research project that we hope that you share the information on these videos with your friends and get their feedback and maybe attend yourself one time to the meetup and put your point of view out there. So today we have some interesting topics. So we're going to start with the topic of sovereignty, and I'm going to read a little bit of the definition of that from Wikipedia. The concept of sovereignty has been discussed throughout history, from the time before recorded history through the present day. It has been changed in its definition, concept, and application throughout, especially during the Age of Enlightenment. The current notion of state of sovereignty contains four aspects, consisting of territory, population, authority, and recognition. According to Stephen D. Krasner, the term could also be understood in four different ways: domestic sovereignty, actual control over a state exercised by an authority organized within the state; interdependent sovereignty, actual control of movement across state borders, assuming that borders exist; international legal sovereignty, formal recognition by other sovereign states; and Westphalian sovereignty, lack of other authority over a state than the domestic authority. Examples of such other authorities could be a non-domestic church, a non-domestic political organization, or any other external agent. Often these four aspects all appear together, but this is not necessarily the case. They are not affected by one another, and there are historical examples of states that were non-sovereign in one aspect, while at the same time being sovereign in another of these aspects. According to Emanuel Wallerstein, another fundamental feature of sovereignty is that it is a claim that must be recognized by others if it is to have any meaning. Sovereignty is more than anything else a matter of legitimacy that requires reciprocal recognition. Sovereignty is a hypothetical trade in which two potentially conflicting sides, respecting de facto realities of power exchange, such recognitions are their least costly strategy. So there is sovereignty of states and government, but there's also personal sovereignty. So we're going to discuss the idea of sovereignty tonight, and each person here can share their point of view and what that means, the concept of sovereignty to them. So we are going to start in one moment with our guests here in the studio are going to share their points of view on sovereignty.
Greetings. My name is Tawny. Wow. Last question I would have expected. Okay, so when she first mentioned that word, I immediately thought of the current world, and then my mind went back to the ancient mystery schools. And so to me, sovereignty means to rule wisely. And I feel like in the past, the matriarchal societies ruled wisely in what I think is respectable sovereignty. And I consider that to be, because she mentioned that it was reciprocal, that leading by example and having people that follow you because you are leading by example. And I also think that means a sovereign has a great responsibility to the people that you are sovereign with, and I think it's an incredible responsibility. I also feel, for me, in a way, it's a spiritual thing, much more than any kind of an economic or kingship or something like that, because I think of the world more in the terms of a community and the one is all. And I guess those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Go for it.
Hi everyone, this is Bill, and I'm totally unprepared for this question. I believe in sovereignty, such as the Constitution of the United States, which guarantees individual liberty to all people, and sovereignty of the states. But I also believe in sovereignty of individuals, and I don't quite know how to elaborate on this.
Well, that's all you have, that's fine.
Okay, I'm trying to put it into a context that I can elaborate, but that was
That was
kind
a
of
good question.
the last thing I was expecting. Good luck.
Well, Michelle really thought of a wild question that I really don't have an answer to. Sovereignty. I think I really agree with both of you, Tani especially, about it. You know, it's a mix of maybe the spiritual, and then just being basically fair to each and every person. Yeah, this is probably not my area. I don't have much to say about it.
Okay,
All right.
well, thank you for sharing what you did.
You're welcome.
So sovereignty, yes, can be somebody above us that is claiming like a king or government, but you can also have your own personal sovereignty. I think that's something to consider. You know, whether the states are sovereign from the federal, you know, we're not trying to get into politics. That's not what this is about. This is just thinking about that concept and how does that make you feel, which brings us into freedom. What is freedom? Is it just physical freedom, not being incarcerated or held back in a physical way, or is there a emotional freedom or a intellectual freedom? What is the most important type of freedom to you? Whether it be freedom of speech, freedom of action, and you know, what if freedoms were to be taken away from you, what would that mean to you?
Okay. In my experience, there are two sides to freedom. One is freedom of, and the other is freedom to. Freedom of, to me, means freedom to not have to make decisions, to just exist. And the other side of freedom, freedom to speech, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. So I think there's always two ways to look at it. Personally, I like to think of freedom to, and I really can appreciate the fact that I'm not going to lie. Money has a lot to do with freedom too. You have enough money, you can do whatever you want, materially, but also spiritually. So I think a lot in terms of freedom as cold hard cash. I'm not going to lie. Also freedom as the one. Once you discover that you are a soul and that you are independent of your body and the physical, that lifted so much weight from my shoulders. I finally felt true freedom in that nobody can harm me, nobody can do anything to me. I am still a spirit and I am free. So I think that's probably one of the most important lessons that I've learned. Freedom too, for me.
Thank you.
I would say the most important freedom to me would be the freedom from the ego and the mind to be free of fear, doubt, disbelief, and to not give power to appearances. And the song that I'm reminded of is "Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream." And I guess I'll stop there.
Cool.
That's Lori again. Interesting going back to the childhood, because to me, freedom is, getting in touch with that inner child. And I think that we learn so much from watching our youth. And, they give us so much information by really shining. And, but other than that, freedom would be for me to just be myself, to be in touch with my spirituality and be allowed to do that. And I think that's part of sovereignty. But I don't know what else I would say about freedom, but yeah, it's both spiritual and then, financial freedom does help. But if we were to go back and not have, money, and be able to have the freedom to grow our own food, to build our own homes the way we want to, and not have, hierarchy say, okay, you have to pay this permit and that permit, and you can't build it this way because then the big, conglomerate government or whoever's at the top, so to speak, wants money in their pocket. So, what are they going to get out of all that money anyway, after all is said and done? Your soul's still going to be hungry for something. So, that's just a little tidbit.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I have no idea how perfect that is, till I tell you in just one moment. So what Lori just shared brings me into my next topic, as she's talking about growing your own food and having freedom to do that, which brings me to the subject of an intentional community. Do you believe an intentional community is possible, and what would that look like to you? Have you seen intentional communities work in action? When I Googled intentional communities, it's been a while now, but the last time I Googled intentional communities, I got a lot of interesting information, a lot of different types of intentional communities that I had no idea were existing. So, thank you, Lori, for that segue.
Okay, I guess I'm just going to go with my first gut thought on that. In the intentional community, I think they used to call that a commune back in the 70s. Anyway, so that was just my first thought on it. And yeah, my concept of a commune or that type of a situation, I know I have one idea about it, but I feel like today I have a different idea about it. And while I may not live in that society, my community of friends, spiritually, the people I meditate with, hang out with, we are certainly that. And we all bring our own value to the table, whether we're healers or tarot readers or witches or light workers or ET enthusiasts. And so I really feel like an intentional community to me means it can also be spiritual and a spiritual community. However, I think the idea of being able to live like that would be a utopian society. So, I know that I won't be growing the food though, that much I know.
There's plenty of gardeners, plenty of people with green thumbs. Not me, either.
Yeah, brought them.
Yes, I have been around the commune scene, and it has worked and it hasn't worked. But I believe as we spiritually evolve, as I am experiencing in my life, that yes, it is most definitely possible, and I have high hopes that the entire world will someday soon live in that state.
Thank you.
Well, as far as intentional community, I actually think of a very, it doesn't have to be totally organized, but I think there has to be some, ground and a little bit of rules, but for the most part, everyone contributes. I mean, each person can have their own home and build their own home, then they can have the common area where they share and they help each other, and I think it is our right to give back to Mother Earth, and I think that should be like really number one. And when you give back to the earth, and you're building in such a way that you're not taking from her, basically, you're really going to be rewarded back. I mean, I've seen it and I believe it. Now, as far as sustainable communities, there's a challenge, and that challenge goes back to the government faction and their rules and that they put on everyone, because, and I don't like to get into the whole conspiracy thing and the complaining and the negative part of it, but I would like to see, and I envision that all of this will change, and people will realize that we really need to build better communities, and not just box houses, but using sacred geometry. And then, like the Native Americans use sacred geometry. They actually use the teepee, which is shape of the pyramid, and it's easy to move around, and it's also polite to the earth, so to speak. Or like how they work together very fast as a community, and they each had something to do. They, would grow their own food, and of course the earth provided it. And now we had, all these people telling us you can't grow your own food, or, they fine you, and I saw something on Facebook about someone who had their home broken into because police saw that they had hydroponic equipment in their garbage, and they thought they were going to, bust down on a grow house, but it turned out they were just growing vegetables and herbs for cooking and surviving, basically. But anyway, sustainable community, intentional community. It also could be like musicians, artists, and people of like mind coming together in each community, and then you could have architects, whatever it is that you want to be around. I mean, I don't know. I like it. I think it should be done. So it is.
So be it.
And so it is.
I would just like to add that the thought came to my mind that the song Imagine by John Lennon kind of puts it all together, and while the spiritual community is small right now compared to the population, it's growing rapidly, and I feel that all of this will come to be.
Amen. So this all ties into the 100th monkey. So if any of this resonates with you and you want to share these ideas, then share the video, share the show. Personal freedom, peace, joy, love, happiness, these are all things that we all want. I don't think I've met anyone that doesn't want these qualities in their life. So if we cultivate those within ourselves and share them with others, it takes us closer to that intentional community. Like Tani mentioned, it can be on a spiritual level, which then can metamorphosize into a physical intentional community where we do control our food and our housing and everything else around us. So this particular program is brought to you by the Dream Society, and the Dream Society believes in a collective consciousness, raising our collective consciousness, that we can achieve incredible things through the power of our intent, and if we magnify that intent in the collective and hold that intention amongst many of us, that we can empower a greater change, whatever that change may be. So be the 100th monkey and join us next week on the 100th monkey experiment. Until then, share the information with those that you know, and let's entrain, as they call it, all of our energies entrain and higher our vibration to the next level. Thank you.